when we talk about Ukraine-related issues specifically, should those negotiations include the Ukrainians, or should they just be the U.S. and Russia?
Well, I think the U.S. and Russia, again, we're talking about the real power distribution in the world, or at least in this part of the world. There are two countries that have agency in the Ukraine conflict. One is the United States, and the other one is Russia. Ukraine is fighting on the ground, and it's offering stubborn resistance to the Russian forces. So you cannot say Ukraine doesn't exist. It does. But on the political side, Ukrainians do not matter much because they are heavily dependent on the United States and to a lesser extent, far lesser extent, on Europe. Ukraine would not be able to hit any targets inside Russia without U.S. intel support. Ukraine will not be able to fire except, just a few rounds had the United States stopped its arms deliveries to Ukraine. So it's Ukraine is a country heavily dependent. Talk about Ukraine's sovereignty, and it does not exist.
So a long-term sustainable peace needs to be determined by the Americans and Russians largely themselves. The Europeans shouldn't be a part of that because they just don't have any power from your perspective.
The framework should be decided by the United States, the broad framework, and Russia. Now, of course, there will have to be negotiations with Ukraine. Ukraine will have to agree to certain things. It takes a Ukrainian head of state, a legal, legitimate head of state, to sign all those documents at the end of the day. The Europeans are certainly involved in any, or should be involved in any discussion pertaining to security in that part of Eurasia, if you like. I think it was Lavrov who said it, that of course Europe and Ukraine will be part of the negotiation process at a certain juncture when it comes to the matters in their competence. But again, there are two powerful countries that have agency, and it is essentially a proxy war, a proxy conflict between America and Russia, and it can be resolved again in broad strokes by the Russians and the Americans.
Do you think, Dmitri, that the principle of territorial integrity deserves to be dustbinned, and that what we're really talking about is that powerful countries need to make the rules and everybody else has to just kind of deal with it?
No, I don't think that the powerful countries will have a right to redraw the map of the world as they wish. I don't think that's a good recipe for the future of the world order. On the other hand, borders between countries of the world have been changing all the time, and to pretend that somehow now the borders that exist now are here forever or cannot be changed except by some sort of an internationally approved referendum or something like that. This is all fantasy. Borders are being changed. They will continue to change. And I'll tell you one thing. Had there been no NATO thing with regard to Ukraine, had there been no attempt for Ukraine to be drawn into the NATO alliance, or Ukrainian leadership's attempt to be invited into NATO, had there been no Russophobia in Ukraine, Crimea would be Ukrainian today. The borders of Ukraine of 1991 would still be standing. No major power would tolerate another major power having a proxy to threaten it at close distance.